Hi, and welcome to our next video from our Relational Leadership course. In this video, we talk about negotiation models. For example, when we talk about teams, taking a collaborative approach would be considered an integrative negotiation approach. In the team, however, there may be competition for resources across the organization, with groups competing with one another for limited resources. We would characterize this as a more competitive or distributive negotiation process. In this short video, we look at these two approaches more in depth, and we look at some specific tactics for negotiating in either situation. Let's look first at the two main negotiation types. We show the navel orange here because it's an analogy for the two types. You can think of the orange as resources. They may be resources of time, people, materials. If person A wants to eat the orange, that is, consume the inner resource, they may wish to get as much of the orange as they can. Person B, meanwhile, may want to make an orange dessert that requires only the use of the peel, and they may want the outer resource. If we take a distributive negotiation, the goal would be to get as much of the orange as you can. Person A would take the entire orange for himself. In an integrative negotiation or an interest-based problem-solving approach, each party would get what they need. So that person B might take the peel, as that's all they're interested in, and give person A what they need, which is the inner segments. Either approach can be used in negotiation, but the assumptions for each are distinctly different. Let's talk in more depth about the integrative or interest-based approach. We consider the integrative negotiation approach from two perspectives: the basic principles that are involved and the context factors that have to be considered. The basic principles of an integrative negotiation approach, that is, I'll take the peel and give you the orange inner segments, are honesty. It requires us to ask for and share what's really important to us. Abundance. It assumes that the pie can be made bigger. Maturity. It's the courage to stand up for what's important to you. It takes a systems orientation, that you can optimize the overall rather than just one part. And finally, a basic principle of integrative or interest-based negotiation is listening. It's not what you say, but how you say it. Once these principles are established in the group, there are several factors that shape the discussion, including the free flow of information. What's important and the alternatives need to be seen and shared openly. Understanding the needs of others. It might help to articulate what the other party seems to be needing if they seem to struggle to articulate it themselves. Commonalities. Reframing the needs of the individual so that they're reflective in the collective goals. And finally, solutions. You need to be firm in your needs and interests, but flexible in how you get there. So how does the integrative negotiation process work? In the integrative negotiation process, it's important first to understand the problem. By creating a goal statement, the basic facilitated process starts with understanding the problem. This is often the most difficult step. Both parties need to agree with the statement, which is written in the form of "to achieve" or "to meet." The statement may need to be revised several times without full agreement on the statement for the rest of the process to succeed. Once you have a goal statement and understand each party's interest, you need to understand the barriers to achieving the goal and the criteria by which success will be judged. It's important to judge this criteria up front. To understand interest, it needs to be reflected in the impact of the solutions and how to achieve success. Interests may be related to several things. They may be financial, they may be equitable, They may be rooted in values. Once you have understood the interest, then we move to generating alternative solutions. Next, we evaluate these alternatives by looking at and comparing to the criteria for success. This may be done by reframing and looking for innovative ways to meet the needs, or by generating an exhaustive list of every possible solution. Using the criteria, each option is weighed in terms of how well it meets the predefined success. It's only then that you identify the best solution. With the distributive negotiation process, which we could characterize as a win-lose, that is, I want all of the orange, negotiation may be concerned with getting as much from the negotiation as you can. You may consider specific tactics of persuasion, as shown in one of the videos that accompany our module. Typically, you might reach a point where the negotiator is not prepared to go any further. This is what's known as the BATNA point. BATNA stands for the best alternative to a negotiated agreement. Think of a house purchase. Before going to auction, you'll have decided what you'd like to pay. You will have also identified the most you can pay and the opening bid you will start with. This is called the bargaining zone. It's good for you and your partner to decide on the BATNA together in advance, so that you're both ready to walk away from the deal if need be. So it's that point at which you're prepared to walk away, and it's an indicator of your power in the negotiation. It can be very advantageous to understand the other person's best alternative to a negotiated agreement. What your BATNA is may depend on the outcomes you desire. So how do you plan for negotiation to ensure that you get the best outcomes for yourself and the other party? First of all, it's important to separate people from the negotiation. Negotiators are people first. They have egos and they care about their image. And there's two sides to every negotiation: substance, what you're negotiating for, and the relationship, how you want to feel afterwards. As often our negotiating partners will remain in relationships with us, we need to pay particular attention to the relationship side of things. People issues are first and foremost perception issues. How can we separate the people perception from the substance? Well, you can try these tactics. First of all, put yourself in their shoes. Withhold judgment while you try it on. That's not the same thing as agreeing with it. It is about empathizing. Discuss perceptions. Ask how they see things and make your perceptions honest without placing blame. Give the negotiator a stake in the outcome. This is the most important strategy of all. If people aren't involved in the process, they're unlikely to endorse the result. Even if the agreement seems favorable, they'll be suspicious if they weren't part of the solution. Face saving. Final agreement needs to reflect the things that people have said and done previously. Make your emotions explicit. Say how you feel and ask how they feel. It may be necessary to allow others to let off steam. Make it easier to talk rationally and listen without responding until they've said the last word. Next is to communicate with purpose. Be concise in your messaging and know what you want to communicate. And finally, build the relationship ahead of time. Work on the relationship on an ongoing basis, not just when you want something. This concludes our video on negotiating models, the integrated and the distributive approach. When we meet as a class, we will practice negotiation using the integrated approach to a case study that you will have been given to read prior to the day. See you then.